Hey guys, my name's Colin. This is Colin Talks Crypto. I'm doing a proxy video and just updating you guys on some proposals and just kind of explaining some things about how the whole proposals and EOS upgrades works to my understanding. I definitely am continuing to learn in this space. So first of all, this is my proxy, Colin T Crypto. Thank you for all of you who have proxied to me, and thank you for those of you who are considering to proxy to me. I do my best to treat your vote with respect and do my absolute best to make it count on the EOS blockchain. And I engage with block producers on various topics and just try to generally guide the blockchain in a good direction. So let's take a look at some things here. First of all, I don't know if you're all aware, but there are two types of proposals out there. There are what are basically sentiment proposals, gauging community sentiment, and they have no actual contractual binding qualities. They are just literally to gauge sentiment, and that's what we all started with, and you're looking at them right here on this page. And then there are 15 of 21 block producer multi-sig proposals to upgrade EOS, and this is what actually changes the EOS system contracts. And starting with the EOS user agreement, these 15 of 21 multi-sig proposals that only block producers can approve are now the only way that we upgrade the ecosystem. So just in case you weren't aware, there's two types of proposals. And we're going to go through a couple of them just because I want to bring some things to the public's attention here. So let's look at this list first of all. Now, these are the upgrade proposals for EOS that block producers have to approve. You can see here on March 13th that the EOS user agreement was put in place. And that was an awesome thing. Props to EOS New York for making that happen. And ever since then, we've been having all these other proposals go forth. And for example, deploying the REX was a three-stage process. You can see on the 16th of April was stage 1. It got approved. Deploying REX stage 2 was on April 24th. It got approved. And just 4 days ago, on the 30th of April, we had the final step, 3 of 3, get approved. And with that approval, instantly, the smart contract was live and REX was active on all the interfaces. And that's why you're able to use the REX. And it's really quite a testament to the speed and efficiency with which EOS can upgrade like this. If you look at this, the first proposal was on 16th of April. So in half a month, once the code was all written, we had the approval process done. This is a big difference from other blockchains where you have things like, at the worst end of the spectrum, Bitcoin, BTC, which literally just cannot upgrade without fighting the entire community and dividing and creating Bitcoin Cash and then, refusing to upgrade the block size, all that. And it's been like a multi-year, like 3 or 4 year debate. It's really not ever ended even to this day. And it resulted in a chain split and 2 tokens, BCH and BTC. So to have something like the REX get deployed, a massive trading platform built within the system of EOS itself in 15 days is really amazing. And I think it's a testament to how far blockchain has come. And it really bodes well for the power and the feature-rich nature of EOS. So that was the REX system. That just got deployed. So there's a couple other ones I want to take a look at. Another one is the EOS lost private key situation for Genesis accounts that have not used their account, but they have lost their private keys for whatever reason. And they also retain their original Ethereum key pair that was registered to the EOS Genesis account so they can cryptographically and on-chain prove their control of their EOS Genesis account. They just don't have a key pair that they can use. And so this solution allows them to regain control of that account that is rightfully theirs and that they can prove. And so we had lost key solution here, part 1, and here's lost key solution part 2. I'm going to put the links to all these various tools in the description below so you guys can look for yourself. And the last tool I wanted to share was this by EOS Titan. It's a proposals heat map. So this is all the sentiment proposals to gauge community sentiment. And it puts every proposal on one page and all the BPs who have voted for any of these proposals. It's an amazing tool. I highly recommend you check it out. And I think it's going to be an awesome way to hold BPs accountable for their votes, to either make sure they're voting or to see what they voted on. And in some cases, it's kind of surprising because some of the BPs don't seem to vote at all on proposals, and I'm not sure why that is. So I'm going to zoom way out. So the BPs are on the left side here, and the proposals are on the top. And so green square obviously means they approved it, red means they disapproved it, gray means they abstained their vote, and dark colored square means there has been no vote cast whatsoever. And so, for example, Start EOS has only voted on one proposal of all of them. They have voted for the EOS user agreement, so that's awesome. They did not vote to get rid of the ECAF. They did not vote to put REX in place. They did not vote for any of these other things like removing inflation, etc. So kind of interesting. I would expect that block producers would be more engaged than that. And so examples of some good ones are EOS Nation. They have participated in many of these polls, as you can see. And a little speech bubble shows that they have put a comment on why they have voted in favor or against as well. And that's an option that you have when voting. Another example of a good one is Crypto Lions. They have voted in all these different proposals. Here's some good ones. EOS Amsterdam, very active. Blocksmith, very active. Tokenica, however you say that, is very active. Shios, extremely active. I vote for EOS USA, very active, etc. There's some good ones in here. And then some ones that aren't so good. Some EOS Beijing, not at all. EOS Canon, 1 vote for 1 proposal. Liberty Block, 1 vote for 1 proposal. Games.EOS, 1 vote for 1 proposal. Token Pocket, 1 vote for 1 proposal. Super One, 1 vote for 1 proposal. EOS San Diego, just 1 vote for 1 proposal. And then there's some in between that. So you can gauge who's active in the voting area and who's not. You can also click on the top here on the proxies little radio button, and you can see all the proxies and who they're voting for. And so here I am, Colin T Crypto. You can see who I voted for, and you can see that some proxies are more active than others for voting on proposals. Another useful tool to gauge which proxy perhaps you want to support. And you can see what they're supporting in relation to what's your beliefs. So let's look at the last thing I want to cover today. And this is a little more in-depth, a little more complex. This is the subject of inflation on EOS. And if you saw on Twitter, I actually wrote an article. I don't usually write posts like this. Every once in a while, I guess I get the inspiration. So it's called Inflation on EOS. By the way, thank you to EOS Canada. I kind of nicked your image and cropped it down to make a title image. EOS Canada made this really cool title image. And so this article was inspired by an article that Graymass wrote. I'll show you that real quick. It's called Inflation, Centralization, and DPoS. It's a really amazing article. It's very technical. It's not the easiest read if you're not technically inclined. I actually had quite a challenge with it as well, but I think I managed to slug my way through it and get the general concept and grasp the important topics of it. Graymass is definitely ahead of the game. They are looking to the future of EOS, and they can see where potential future failures may lie, and they have called them out and spotted them, and I think that's awesome. And so if I was to boil down this whole article, basically what they're saying, and I did my best to explain it in my own words on my article, is that they're describing a situation where we have over a long period of time this potential issue where, well, it's not even a potential issue. I think it's an inevitable issue where there will be a centralization effect among the block producers because they're getting the interest. They're getting that block producer pay. Now, that's totally fine. Of course, they need to get paid to secure the network and to make the blocks and pay for their infrastructure. That is completely expected. However, because only a subset of the EOS blockchain is getting rewards, over time, that subset, the block producers, get a greater and greater percentage of the total token supply. You can see where I'm going with this. If every year there's a 1% inflation, but that 1% inflation is only given to block producers, then only the block producers can grow their percentage in size. And so it results in a growingly disproportionate percentage of control and power on the EOS blockchain. And here they say that in 10 years, these block producers would have 10% of the control. And in 100 years, yeah, it's a long time out, they would have 60% of the control. And that would be more than half the network. And so basically, DPoS at that point, in my opinion, would be considered to have failed in 100 years. So what's the way we combat this? The way to combat this is to create an equal but offsetting percentage, 1%, to exactly counteract the 1% that they're being paid. and award it to everyone except and excluding specifically block producers. So it could be anyone from content creators like myself, or it could be developers who want to create development on the EOS blockchain. And as Greymass points out, they say, while this doesn't sound like a problem today, the numbers should be concerning. There's a multiplicative factor by about 30 for the votes in EOS, because every vote counts for up to 30 block producers. Should a group of 30 agree, they can collectively amplify their votes by vote trading by that factor. In this case, a collective could achieve this dominance in at worst 5 months. So it goes down from 100 years to 5 months to be able to have a dominational effect if the worst case scenario of cabal all voted for themselves and continued to reap the inflation rewards only for themselves, with no opposing inflation to anyone else in the ecosystem. And as I explained in my article, I think I'll just read it here. Normally, I am completely against inflation. It has destroyed every fiat in every government to date. But there is a right way and a wrong way to use inflation. And I'm just coming to grips with that and learning that myself. If inflation can generate more growth than it dilutes, then it can be argued to be a net positive for the system. And because DPoS, which is delegated proof of stake on EOS, that system is based on inflation. And because it's inherent in the system, we must balance it correctly. Otherwise, the BPs currently getting paid 1% annually are not being offset by anything else. And this results in a centralization over time. And Greymass refers to this phenomenon as asymptotic consensus convergence, just to make a real easy term there for all you guys. I just call it centralization over time. But either way, we're talking about the same thing here. So that leads us to the various proposals regarding inflation. And there are two basic ones that we're talking about here. So we have one that's proposed by EOS Vibes. Let's see if I can find it here. And it says reduce the annual inflation to 1%. So this is a sentiment poll. It is not a 15 of 21 block producer poll. So this will not upgrade the network yet. This is just gauging sentiment. And we're just seeing who is on board with reducing inflation to 1%. And currently it has 100% of people voting yes for it. But we need to get all the block producers on board. So the first step is gauging sentiment. The second step will be to put this in place. Now, it's come to my attention that there's a common rebuttal for not putting this in place. However, these people obviously aren't voting no. They're just phrasing it when you say, why haven't you voted for this proposal? And the rebuttal is, well, we need that inflation to pay for production on EOS. And I agree, that is an important thing. And in fact, it's not just important, it's vital, as we just covered. It's vital to have an opposing 1% counter inflation to the BPs going to everyone but the BPs. Anyone else creating something useful or needed on the EOS blockchain. So really what we need to end up with is 2% total inflation. I'd love it if we could stick at 1%, but based on Greymass's article, it doesn't look like that would be a survival long-term decision for the EOS network because of the centralization effects that block producers would benefit from. So I think that we ultimately need a 2% total inflation. So we should be able to burn 3% of the 4% current excess worker proposal fund inflation. And that would bring us down to a total of 2% inflation, 1% of which goes to block producers. So that's what this proposal is, a gauging of sentiment of the desire to reduce inflation on the network down to, this actually says 1%. And I'm starting to think we actually do need it to be 2%, but we don't have a way to use that second percent yet. So what I suggest is that we actually cancel the 4% annual inflation, get it down to just the 1% for BPs, and then we create a proposal to put in place a DAO, decentralized autonomous corporation, that allows for the funding of projects on EOS that goes specifically not to block producers. If we can put in place some kind of a unique ID system, again, I'm hoping that block.one has solved the unique ID problem so that we can then reward individuals who are specifically not block producers. So I feel we should remove the 4% and then work on the second stage, which is creating an entirely new worker proposal DAO-based system. If we don't, what's going to happen is we're just going to continue to accumulate these unused funds in the worker proposal account, and then we're just going to have to continuously repropose the burning of these tokens. And it's kind of silly to keep burning them over and over when we could just do it right from the first place. So this is sort of a backward sequence for handling the problem, and I'm not sure why block producers are doing it backwards like this. They're burning the tokens first and then not handling the 4% inflation. Makes no sense, honestly. So what we need to do is get on board with reducing the annual rate of inflation down to 1%, so there's only block producer rewards. Then we need to come together and, as the stage 2, create a DAO-based development fund to fund projects and development and creators on EOS to reward another 1% to non-block producer entities. And if you wonder why I keep emphasizing that so much, please do read the Gray Mass blog, because they emphasize it just as clearly so you can get the full idea. After having made this video and discussed it further with BPs, my conclusion is we should do one of two things today. 1. Turn off the 4% inflation, and then work on creating a new worker proposal system with a new 1% source of inflation to offset the BP 1% inflation as per the Gray Mass article. Or if we can't gain wide community agreement on number 1, which is what it seems like, we should do number 2. Reduce the current 4% inflation down to 1% inflation. In that case, we'd have a total of 2% network inflation on EOS, 1% going to BPs, and 1% inflation going to the eosio saving account. This is at least an improvement over the current 5% total inflation. If we do neither 1 nor 2, the full 4% inflation continues to flow into an unused account, and we continue to repeat the same overinflating of the network as before. This would necessitate future repeated burnings of the eosio saving account. This is a waste of time and energy when we can simply turn off, per number 1 above, or reduce the inflation, number 2 above, now, and then create a good worker proposal DAO-based system that specifically does not further reward BPs to avoid the centralization problem described in Gray Mass's article. Okay, guys, I think that I've probably overloaded you too much here already, so thank you very much for voting for Colin Talks Crypto Proxy. Have a great day.